While driving my wife and her friends to a spa weekend, I heard her say from the back seat, "Honestly, he's like a rescue dog. You feed him, he wags his tail. So easy to control." They all laughed. Loud, obnoxious, cruel laughter. I gripped the steering wheel tighter, my knuckles whitening. The rearview mirror caught a glimpse of her smirking as if she'd just nailed a joke at a stand-up show. Her name is Amanda. My wife. My partner. Or so I thought. And the friends? Jessica, Courtney, and Megan, the mean girls of adulthood, dressed in designer sunglasses and armed with cruelty masked as humor. We were still an hour out from the spa resort. 60 more minutes of pretending I didn't hear the punchline of what my life had become. I didn't say a word. I didn't swerve. I just kept driving. But something shifted in me during that hour. Something I couldn't undo. When we pulled up to the resort, Amanda didn't even wait for the engine to die. She swung the door open like she couldn't stand another second in the same space as me. "Oh," she said, glancing back with that smug little grin. "Don't forget to wash the sheets before I get back. They stink like you." Then she slammed the door. Slammed it like she was closing a chapter. 6 hours. 6 damn hours I drove back in silence. My mind replayed every detail like a broken film reel. Her voice, the laughter, the disgust in her tone when she talked about me. I started wondering, how long had she felt this way? Had I been blind? Or had she just become a better liar? I got home just after dark. The house felt colder than I remembered. I stood in the doorway, looking at our wedding photo. Me, all smiles and hope. Her, that same practiced smirk. I stared at it like it was some relic from a life that never really existed. Then I ripped it off the wall. That night I couldn't sleep. Not because I was sad. No, I felt something worse, humiliation. I'd become her personal joke, the punchline to her cruel comedy act. And I started to wonder, what else had I missed? The next morning, I started digging. I didn't even know what I was looking for. Maybe closure, maybe proof I wasn't crazy. I opened her laptop. Password, gotta say. Fitting. Arrogant. But it opened. Emails. Texts. Pictures. She wasn't just laughing at me behind my back. She was sharing photos of some gym rat named Kyle, shirtless mirror selfies, messages like, "Can't wait to see you again," face blowing a kiss. And he thinks I'm at yoga. LOL. I stared at the screen, my mouth dry. It wasn't just betrayal, it was mockery. She was building a life outside our marriage. One where I was the idiot husband who folded laundry and paid bills while she played house with a younger guy behind my back. I should have felt heartbreak, but all I felt was rage. That night, I didn't confront her. No, I waited. I cleaned the house like she asked. Washed the sheets. But I didn't do it for her. I did it because something was boiling inside me, and I needed to keep my hands busy. She came back 2 days later. Knocked on the door like nothing happened. When I opened it, she stood there with mascara streaks down her cheeks and her luggage dragging behind her like a body bag. "Can we talk?" she sniffed. I didn't move. Just looked at her. "Please, Josh," she said, voice cracking. I messed up. Oh, now she wanted to talk. The woman who told her friends I was easy to control. The same woman who slammed the car door on our marriage and insulted me like a stranger. Suddenly, she remembered how to cry. I stepped aside. Not because I forgave her. No. That wasn't even on the table. I let her in because I wanted to hear every lie she was about to tell me, and make her watch as each one shattered against the truth I already held in my hands. She sat down on the edge of the couch like she was trying to look small, delicate, innocent. Like I hadn't just spent the past 2 days replaying her giggles in the back seat and staring at a half-naked guy flexing in her inbox. "I know you're angry," she started, voice trembling. Perfect little performance. "But I swear, it's not what you think." I didn't respond. Just looked at her. That silence made her squirm. "Josh," she reached for my hand, but I pulled it back like her touch was acid. It was stupid. A mistake. Just a stupid mistake, okay? I was drunk. I was confused. It didn't mean anything. She blinked fast, waiting for sympathy. Instead, I stood up and walked to the kitchen counter, grabbed her laptop, still open to Kyle's greatest hits. I turned it toward her and tapped the screen. "Which night were you drunk?" I asked. "Tuesday, when you sent him the wish you were in my bed pic. Or Thursday, when you told him you'd be wearing nothing but perfume and his favorite smile." Her face drained. You what?" I cut in, finally letting my voice rise. "You thought I wouldn't find out? You thought I'd keep wagging my tail because you threw me a damn snack now and then?" Amanda stood up too, arms crossed like she was the one being attacked. You were never around, Josh. You're always working, always tired. I felt lonely. Oh, so cheating is a spa treatment now. I laughed bitterly. You lie. You disappear. You sleep with some dime store bodybuilder. And now I'm supposed to understand because you were lonely? She rolled her eyes. God, this is why I didn't tell you. You're always so dramatic. That did it. That one word. Dramatic. Like I was the problem. Like my pain was just a nuisance to her little fantasy life. You didn't tell me, I said, my voice cold. Because you enjoyed it. You enjoyed lying. You liked the power. You liked making fun of me in front of your friends like I was some sad little puppy you picked up from a shelter. Her jaw clenched, but she didn't deny it. That silence said more than any excuse could. Then came the shift. Her tears dried up in seconds. She grabbed her purse and snapped, Fine. If you're going to be like this, then maybe it's good we're over. That's what she said. Good we're over. Just like that. Like 5 years of marriage was a pair of shoes she decided didn't fit anymore. She turned to walk out. But I wasn't done. You think he's going to keep you? I asked. She froze at the door. Kyle, you're the married woman who cheats. The one who lies. The one who can't even look her husband in the eye and admit what she's done. You think that's sexy long term. She didn't look back. Just slammed the door. Again. And this time, it was permanent. But when I looked around the house, empty wine glasses on the table, her perfume still lingering in the hallway, the sheets still warm from another man, I felt something strange. Not pain. Relief. Because I finally saw her for who she really was. Not the girl I married. Not the woman I hoped she'd become. Just a selfish, manipulative liar who thought love was a game and I was her toy. But I'm not a toy. And she's not coming back. Not to me. Not to this home. Not to the man who used to wag his tail when she tossed him a crumb. She thought she'd broken me. But all she did was wake me up. And I was just getting started. The next morning felt like waking up in a house I didn't recognize. Amanda's perfume still clung to the air like a ghost I didn't ask for. The bed was cold on her side, but not in a way that made me miss her, in a way that made me sick. I couldn't stop thinking about that car ride. The way she laughed. The way she treated me like a servant with a wallet. I replayed it so many times it started to feel like a scene from a movie, except I was the idiot everyone laughed at. I didn't tell anyone right away. Not my brother. Not my co-workers, not even my best friend Tyler, who'd always had suspicions about her. No, this kind of humiliation needed time to boil. By evening, I had a plan. I wasn't going to mope around, cry into my hands like some broken man. Amanda wanted to treat me like a joke? Fine, but I'd be the one writing the punchline. I started by sending copies of the messages and photos to myself, then deleting them from her devices. She'd never know I had them. Not yet. I opened a separate bank account. Quietly. Moved half the savings. Froze the credit card we shared. I contacted a lawyer. Told him everything. By the time Amanda came knocking again 2 days later, all fake tears and mascara, I had a steel wall where my heart used to be. This time, I let her in, but only to watch her dig her own grave. She sniffled as she stood in the living room, arms crossed, acting like she didn't know what I knew. Josh, I've been thinking about everything. About us. I know I said some things I shouldn't have. You mean like calling me a rescue dog? I asked calmly. Her face fell. You heard that. All of it. She sat down. It was just a joke, babe. No, that wasn't a joke. That was the truth slipping out. Amanda shifted, realizing the tone had changed. Okay, maybe I was frustrated. But it doesn't mean I don't love you. Love, I said, then leaned in slightly. Tell me something, Amanda. How many times did you love me before sneaking off to his place after yoga? She looked away. How many nights did I cook you dinner while he was undressing you with his eyes over text? How many lies did you tell with that same mouth you used to whisper I'm yours? You're twisting it, she said quickly. Kyle wasn't serious. He was a distraction. So was I shot back. From your boring little life. She stood up, her voice rising. You think you're perfect? You think being some boring office guy who folds laundry makes you a prize? I needed more. I needed passion. No, Amanda, I said, smiling coldly. You needed validation. Attention. Someone dumb enough to fall for the act I finally see through. She stepped closer. Are you going to throw this all away? I laughed. You already did. She paused for a second, staring at me. Then, with the most venom I'd ever heard in her voice, she muttered, You'll regret this. Will I? I asked, stepping closer. Because from where I'm standing, the only thing I regret is not seeing you for what you were sooner. She stormed out, slammed the door, again. But it didn't echo this time. It sounded final. That night, I poured a whiskey, sat in the chair by the window, and watched the rain hit the street. I felt something shift again. This time not in anger, not even in pain. It was clarity. All the signs had been there. The distance, the sudden spa weekends, the fake smiles, the way she laughed harder at other people's jokes than mine, the way she stopped reaching for my hand at night. I thought it was a rough patch, but it wasn't. It was a prelude to betrayal, to lies, to watching the woman I married rot from the inside out while wearing Chanel lipstick and calling it growth. She didn't fall out of love with me. She fell in love with attention, with power, with the game. And she lost. Because now, it's my turn. 3 days passed, and Amanda hadn't called. Not once. I thought maybe she'd finally gotten the message that I wasn't going to play the role of the loyal idiot anymore. But I was wrong. It was Sunday morning when she showed up again, this time without makeup, wearing the old hoodie she used to steal from my closet like it made her feel closer to me. She stood outside the door, holding a cup of coffee like this was some regular morning, like nothing had shattered between us. I opened the door and didn't say a word. I brought your favorite, she said softly, offering the cup. I didn't take it. Her lips twitched, trying to form some version of a smile, but it collapsed under the weight of the truth between us. I've been thinking a lot, she started. About us. About what I did. I leaned on the doorframe. And I was selfish. I let myself get distracted. And I know I hurt you. But I want to fix things. I almost laughed. Fix, I said. You don't fix betrayal with coffee and a sad voice. You don't wipe away humiliation with a hoodie and puppy eyes. I miss you, she said quickly. And I miss us. No, Amanda. You miss control. Her mouth opened, but I raised a hand. You don't miss me. You miss the version of me who didn't know. Who washed your sheets while you giggled in the back seat with your girlfriends about how easy it was to lie to me. She swallowed hard. Kyle meant nothing. You meant nothing to yourself the moment you looked at me and saw someone you could humiliate. There it was again. That flicker of rage behind her eyes. The one she used to hide better. She wasn't crying anymore. She was calculating. You think you're so noble now, she said, stepping forward. You think just because I slipped up, you get to act like you're some damn saint. I never claimed to be a saint, I replied. But I didn't cheat. I didn't lie. I didn't laugh about you behind your back like a damn schoolgirl. She stepped back. So what, Josh? You're done with me? Just like that. No, I said. I was done the moment you looked me in the eye and lied after I already knew the truth. That's the part one can't forgive, not even the affair. The way you didn't flinch when you lied. She turned away, pacing the porch like she was still trying to win some invisible argument. And then she spun back, fire in her voice. He's married too. You know that. Kyle. He went back to his wife. I meant nothing to him. That what you wanted to hear? I blinked. Wow, I muttered. You came here to hurt me more? That your way of fixing things? No, she said, her voice cracking again. I wanted you to know it wasn't real. I already knew, I replied. Because nothing about you has been real for a long time. She stood frozen. And then she did something I didn't expect. She dropped the coffee, let it shatter on the porch. Then she stormed to her car, slammed the door, and peeled out of the driveway like a teenager in a tantrum. And that should have been the end. Except it wasn't. That night, I got a call. From Jessica, one of Amanda's friends. Her voice was shaky. Josh, I shouldn't be telling you this, but Amanda's not just messing with Kyle. I sat down. She's been talking to someone else too. A guy named Marcus. He's dangerous. The kind of guy you don't say no to. Why are you telling me this? I asked, my voice low. Because I think she's losing it. And you need to be careful. I hung up the phone and sat there in the dark, the room spinning around me. This wasn't over. Amanda wasn't done. And now, it wasn't just betrayal. It was something else. Something darker. I didn't sleep that night. Every shadow outside my window felt like it had a face. Every noise made me reach for the drawer where I kept the old baseball bat. Amanda wasn't just toxic. She was reckless. And now I had a name I'd never heard before. Marcus. The kind of name that didn't belong in marriage problems. The kind of name Jessica said was dangerous. I didn't know what to believe, but something in her voice had struck me. Jessica had always been a smug gossip. Never once looked me in the eye. But last night, her voice was different. Nervous. Urgent. Like she knew something was coming, and I wasn't ready for it. So I started watching my back. The next morning, I called my buddy Tyler and told him everything. He didn't act surprised. I always knew Amanda was trouble, he said. But this sounds like more than infidelity, man. You think this guy's been to your house? I don't know, I said. But if he has, I need to be ready. I installed a camera by the front door that afternoon. Bought a motion light. Locked the gate behind me when I took out the trash. I didn't care if it made me paranoid. I'd rather be cautious than be blindsided again. That evening, around 11:47 p.m., the camera pinged my phone. Someone was outside. I jumped out of bed and checked the screen. A tall figure in a hoodie stood near my porch, not moving, not knocking, just watching. I didn't turn the lights on. I didn't open the door. I just watched him stand there for 4 minutes, then slowly walk away. He didn't even try to hide his face from the camera. He wanted me to know he was there. The next morning, I called Amanda. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to yell. I just needed answers. She answered on the second ring. What do you want, Josh? Who is Marcus? I asked, dead calm. Silence. Then, you talked to Jessica. I did, I said. And now there's a guy showing up at my house in the middle of the night. Tall. Hoodie. Staring at my door like he's checking a target. I didn't send him, she said quickly. I swear, he wasn't supposed to go there. Then what was he supposed to do, Amanda? I needed protection, she snapped. After everything. Kyle ghosted me, Jessica turned on me, and you. Me? I laughed coldly. You needed protection from me? The guy you cheated on, humiliated, and dumped? You needed protection from me. She didn't respond. I could hear her breathing, shallow and fast. She was scared now, but not for me. For herself. Marcus isn't what you think, she finally said. He's not mine. I was stupid. I let him in. And now he won't leave. Leave what, Amanda? My life, she said quietly. He thinks I belong to him. I sat down slowly, the weight of it all pressing down like a boulder. You brought a criminal into your mess, I said, voice barely above a whisper. And now you drag me into it. I didn't mean to. You never mean to, I snapped. You just act. And people get burned. I didn't want you to get hurt. Too late. I hung up. My hands were shaking. But not from fear. From fury. Amanda hadn't just destroyed our marriage. She'd invited danger into my home, into my life. And for what? For attention? For thrills? That was the night I made another decision. No more waiting. No more watching. The next morning, I drove to the police station. I filed a restraining order request. Against Amanda. And against Marcus, if I could find his full name. Then I hired a private investigator. Because if she thought she could burn down my life and walk away laughing, she was wrong. The rescue dog had teeth. And he'd just learned how to bite. 3 days later, I had a name, Marcus Fields. The investigator found him in less than 48 hours. Multiple arrests, assault, intimidation, stalking. Nothing that had ever stuck in court, but enough to paint a clear picture. This wasn't just some guy Amanda flirted with to feel alive. This was someone who fed off control, chaos, and fear. He owned a garage on the edge of town, but didn't live there. Nobody knew exactly where he stayed, which made it worse. A shadow with a toolbox and a temper, and now, he had me on his radar. Because of her. Amanda's spiral wasn't a fall anymore. It was a free fall. And she was trying to grab me on the way down. That evening, I found her standing in my driveway again. Hoodie, sunglasses, arms wrapped around herself like she was trying to stay invisible. I almost didn't open the door, but she saw me. She walked up, slow, shaky, and knocked twice like it hurt her. I didn't say a word, just stared at her. Josh, she whispered. Can I come in? No. She looked behind her like someone might be watching, then leaned in. He knows everything now? About you, about where we live. He said if I don't make things right, he's going to come for both of us. I didn't blink. Make things right, I asked. You mean what, sleep with him? Steal from me? What does that even mean, Amanda? She looked up, eyes glassy. He wants money. He thinks I owe him. He said I promised him a future. I laughed in disbelief. And what future did you promise him? The one where you play house with him in my home? With my life? I didn't think it'd go this far. Yeah, you never do. She opened her mouth again, probably to deliver another carefully crafted excuse. But I'd heard enough. I stepped outside, closing the door behind me. If he shows up again, I said calmly, I'll be ready. Not scared. Ready. And if he lays one finger on me, You, or anything that's mine, I won't call the cops. I'll bury him. Her eyes widened. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't clench a fist. I just told the truth. Go, I added. You wanted the chaos? Liven it. But don't come here again. This place is done with you. She didn't argue. For the first time since this nightmare started, she looked like she knew it was over. She walked back down the driveway. Slowly. Head low. Like she finally felt the weight of what she'd set in motion. I didn't go back inside immediately. I stood there, watching the street, waiting for the sound of tires that didn't belong. A shape in the shadows. But nothing came. That night, the investigator called again. There's something else, he said. Marcus isn't just harassing you. He's been asking questions. About your job, your finances, even your family. He's fishing for something. Why? I asked. There was a pause. Because Amanda gave him a key. My blood turned cold. A key to what? To your storage unit. My heart slammed against my ribs. I kept all my documents there. Backups of contracts, IDs, passwords, even an old safe box. It was my vault. My clean slate. I drove there at 1 a.m. The lock was gone. Inside, boxes were torn open. Papers scattered. The safe was gone. I stood in the center of it all, chest heaving, every warning bell in my brain screaming. This wasn't just about betrayal anymore. This was a setup. A theft. A trap. Amanda hadn't just ruined our marriage. She'd handed over my life to a predator. And now, he had the blueprints. I called the police at 1:17 a.m., standing barefoot on the cold concrete of the ransacked storage unit. I didn't even feel the chill. Adrenaline numbs everything. The officer who arrived took photos, asked questions, made all the usual noises of concern, but I could already see the indifference behind his eyes. No sign of forced entry. No cameras. And I didn't have proof that Marcus had taken anything. But I knew. I knew exactly who did it. And why. The safe had been bolted to the floor. Whoever took it came prepared. Which meant it wasn't random. It wasn't an act of desperation. It was a move. A calculated one. By noon, I had frozen all my accounts, changed every password, locked every digital door I could think of. But the damage wasn't just about identity or money. It was psychological. It was the invasion. The violation. He'd stepped into my world, pried it open, and stolen a piece of me that I didn't even know I'd been guarding. Amanda didn't call that day. I don't know if she was hiding, or if Marcus had her under his thumb now. Honestly, I didn't care. Sympathy had left the building days ago. All that was left now was clarity, and the need to strike back. I met with my lawyer that afternoon. Divorce papers had been ready for a week, but I'd held off, unsure whether serving them would make things worse. That hesitation was gone now. She's not just reckless, I told him. She's dangerous. And she's aligned herself with someone who isn't afraid to escalate. He nodded. We'll get this filed immediately. I'll also file for a protection order. If he's making threats, even indirectly. He already broke into my life. I cut in. That's not indirect. That's war. It was strange, this sharpness inside me. Not fear. Not sadness. Just precision. I'd been drowning in betrayal, swimming in grief. But now I could see the surface. And I was heading straight for it, fists clenched. 2 days later, I finally heard from Amanda. Text message. No emojis. No baby or please. Just, he's out of control. I'm scared. I made a mistake. Please, I need your help. I stared at the message for a long time. She hadn't apologized. Not really. She hadn't asked if I was okay after everything. She just wanted help. The same way she always had. The same pattern. Use, discard, plead. Rinse, repeat. I didn't respond. Instead, I contacted the PI again. Asked him to dig deeper. Find anything and everything on Marcus. His ties, his habits, his past. I wasn't just going to defend myself anymore. I was going to dismantle whatever threat she'd brought into my life. That night, I received an unmarked envelope at my front door. No return address. No postage. Just dropped off, like a message from the devil. Inside were photos. Of me. Taken from across the street. Me taking out the trash. Me locking my car. Me reading on the porch. On the back of one, in scratchy handwriting. Nice neighborhood. Hate to see it get messy. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't even sit down. I kept the lights off, baseball bat by the door, watching every movement outside through the blinds. Not scared. Not anymore. Prepared. I had no idea how this would end. But it sure as hell wasn't going to end with me on the floor, wondering how I let it get this far. Amanda had thrown the match. Marcus lit the fire. But I was the one who was going to burn it all down before they did. I stood in the hallway of the women's clinic, heart dead silent in my chest, watching through a crack in the half-open door. Her head was on his shoulder, my wife, Madison. She was whispering, "We'll figure this out," her hand gently wrapped around his like they were starring in some sick romantic drama. And him? Some tanned, smug piece of muscle named Travis. Tight polo, Rolex watch, probably no brain under that perfect fade. He didn't even look nervous. Like he belonged there. Like he was the man in her life. My best friend, Dr. Nolan Carter, called me 2 hours earlier. "Eli, I didn't know how to tell you this, but Madison was in my clinic today. With another guy. She's pregnant, and, well, they were here for an abortion." I thought he was joking. Or mistaken. Or that maybe it was some ridiculous setup. Madison? My wife? We'd been through thick and thin. Sure, the last couple months she'd been cold, always on her phone, claiming work was overwhelming. But abortion? Another man? So I drove there. I told Nolan not to say a word, just let me see for myself. And there she was, her head on his shoulder. Like I never existed. I didn't scream. I didn't barge in. I didn't even blink. I just took out my phone and recorded it. Every second. Madison whispering. Him brushing her back with his hand. The nurse handing her a clipboard. She didn't flinch. Didn't act guilty. Just acted like this was her new normal. You think something like that would break a man. It didn't. It remade me. I walked out, drove home in complete silence, and packed every bag I owned. I took down the wedding photos. I emptied the drawers. I disconnected the Wi-Fi, turned off the fridge, left the power bill unpaid on purpose. On the living room wall-mounted TV, I cued the recording to autoplay. Looping. Right there. Volume up. Then I placed a handwritten note on the kitchen counter. For words. Figure this out too. And I left. She came home around 10:47 p.m. I watched through the doorbell cam from a hotel 2 blocks away. Watched her stop in the doorway, bags in hand, probably expecting dinner or a fight or a cold shoulder. Instead, she saw emptiness. In the video, she dropped her purse. It hit the floor like a gunshot. I watched her freeze as the footage played. Watched her walk to the TV and hit pause like that would change the truth. Like she could delete what she'd done by stopping the video. 10 minutes later, she called. I didn't answer. 10 minutes after that, texts started pouring in. Eli, can we talk? It's not what it looks like. I need to explain. You're being dramatic. Please come home. Please. I didn't respond. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling fan, counting every turn. This wasn't heartbreak. This was surgical clarity. My wife wasn't some confused, lost woman. She was a calculating, manipulative liar who could curl up against another man, her lover, in a public clinic like she didn't have a ring on her finger. Like I didn't matter. And I had just unlocked the first chapter of her deception. But I wasn't prepared for what came next. Because Madison didn't just lie. She fought back. And that night was only the beginning. She showed up the next morning. I was sitting in the parking lot of the gym, sipping burnt hotel coffee, trying to decide if I even felt anger anymore or just vacuum. My phone buzzed. Video notification from the doorbell cam. There she was. Black hoodie. No makeup. Hair tied up like she hadn't slept all night. She stood on the porch for 5 minutes before knocking. Then she just sat on the steps. Like she was waiting for a bus that would never come. I didn't move. She texted again. Where are you? Can we please talk? I don't want this to end like this. End? She made it in the moment she whispered, "We'll figure this out," to another man with my child inside her. That was the finish line. She crossed it with a damn smile. I drove off. By the time I got back to the hotel, she had sent a 6-paragraph message about being lost, feeling alone in our marriage, and needing comfort. Comfort? That's what she called it? Comfort? The dude was rubbing her back while she signed away a life they created together in secret and that she destroyed without blinking, all while pretending to be mine. Later that evening, Nolan called again. He sounded more broken than I was. I'm sorry, man. I didn't want to be the one to tell you, but when I saw her, I just knew you needed to know. You did the right thing, I told him. He was quiet for a second. Then he asked, "What are you going to do now?" I didn't know. Divorce was already in motion. But this wasn't about paperwork anymore. This was about truth. About finally seeing her without the mask. That night, she snuck into my hotel. I had forgotten she still had the spare key to my car, and she must have guessed where I was staying. I heard the knock at the door, didn't answer. Then I heard the card slide into the door lock. She walked in like she still had a right. Eli. She looked like hell. Puffy eyes, lips cracked. Hoodie swallowed her figure like she wanted to disappear. I didn't say a word. I messed up, she whispered, stepping closer. I didn't mean for this to happen. I laughed. It came out hollow and sharp, like glass breaking. You didn't mean to screw some gym trainer raw and end up pregnant? She flinched. It wasn't like that. Oh, right. I forgot. It was for comfort. She didn't cry. That's what pissed me off the most. She should have cried. Instead, she crossed her arms and looked at me like I was being unreasonable. You haven't been present for months. Always at work. Always distant. You pushed me away. I stood. You had a mouth. You could have told me. You could have screamed, argued, thrown a damn plate. But instead, you spread your legs for a discount Jason Momoa and smiled like he was your rescue plan. That finally cracked her. Her lip trembled. Don't act like you were some saint, Eli. You've been cold. Boring. Predictable. Predictable. That word burned. I was loyal, I said quietly. That's what predictable meant to me. Silence. Then she dropped the nuclear excuse. I didn't know if the baby was his or yours. I felt everything stop. My lungs forgot how to work. My fists curled without my permission. You think that makes it better? I whispered. You think that makes you look less like a monster? I didn't mean to hurt you. She kept saying that, like she thought she could undo it by repeating it enough times. I looked her dead in the eyes. You didn't hurt me. You freed me. She turned toward the door slowly, like it finally sank in. Like she knew I wasn't bluffing. She opened her mouth to say something else, but I slammed the door shut behind her before she could. I didn't need to hear another word. She left, and the moment that door clicked, it was like oxygen flooded my lungs again. But she wasn't done with me yet. Not even close. 3 days passed. 3 blissful days without seeing her face, hearing her fake apologies, or smelling that vanilla perfume she used to drown herself in before pretending she was working late. I was starting to breathe again. Eating real food. Sleeping. Nolan and I even hit the shooting range just to blow off steam. I hadn't laughed in weeks, but something about watching my best friend miss every target like a blindfolded rookie brought a real smile back. Then she showed up at my job. Not a text. Not a call. No warning. She walked straight through the front doors like she owned the place, ignoring the receptionist, storming past security like a woman on a mission. Every eye in the office turned toward the glass hallway. I looked up from my desk, and there she was, tight black dress, red lips, crocodile tears ready. Eli, she said loud enough for everyone to hear. I just want to talk. I stepped out of my office, voice low. You need to leave. She shook her head. Not until you listen. I already did. You're on video, remember? She dropped her voice. You think you're the only one hurting? A laugh escaped my throat, bitter and sharp. Are you seriously playing the victim? In my building. She took a step closer, ignoring how every employee nearby was trying not to stare. I ended it with him. I told Travis it was a mistake. He doesn't mean anything. I stared at her. He meant enough to get you pregnant. She blinked, jaw clenched, like she wanted to scream, but realized she had no weapons left to throw. I didn't know how to fix things with you. You don't fix betrayal, I said. You bury it. Security arrived behind her. Sir. I nodded. Escort her out. As they led her away, she turned, eyes wild. This isn't over, Eli. You're not done with me. The office was silent for an hour after that. No one made eye contact. I locked myself in my office and stared at my screen, not seeing a single number or chart. All I saw was her walking out of the clinic with that guy, like they were about to start a new life together. Like I had never existed. That night, she left a letter at my hotel. It was folded neatly under the door, thick paper, written in her handwriting. She always had nice penmanship, clean, controlled, like her lies. I read it twice. She blamed her parents, her childhood, the pressure of our marriage. She blamed the city, her job, even my dog for making her feel unappreciated. Not once did she say the word sorry, but she did say she still loved me, and that she was willing to prove it. I ripped it up. That same night, Nolan called again. She's trying to file a complaint against me, he said, voice tense. Claims I violated her privacy by telling you. She's reaching, I said. She's drowning and clawing at anything she can. You need to be careful, man. This woman's unhinged. He wasn't wrong. The next day, she messaged my mom. Told her I was cheating on her. That I had a secret Tinder account. That I was the one who pushed her away. I called my mother that evening. She didn't believe a word of it, but she sounded exhausted. Eli, she said, this girl, she's poison. I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. I know. I just didn't want to admit it. And the worst part? There was still a part of me, small, broken, pathetic, that missed her. Not the real her. Not the woman who lied and cheated and played me like a fool. But the idea of her. The version I thought I had. The fantasy I built brick by brick with every anniversary, every kiss, every night I thought she was mine. That part needed to die. And fast. Because Madison wasn't just a liar. She was a storm. And I was done standing in the rain. A week later, I found out she was pregnant again. Except this time, it wasn't mine. Travis had apparently dumped her, moved 2 states over, deleted his socials, changed his number. And now, with no one left to cling to, Madison started showing up everywhere. My gym, my barber, even my favorite diner. She didn't talk. She just stared, like I was supposed to look at her belly and feel guilt. She must have thought the baby was her golden ticket back into my life. That maybe I'd forget everything. The betrayal, the whispers, the lie at the clinic, the fact that she rested her head on another man while erasing what could have been ours. That Saturday night, I caught her sitting on the curb outside my hotel, fake tears smeared down her cheeks like melted mascara. She stood up as I approached. I don't have anyone, she said, wrapping her arms around herself. He left. My parents won't talk to me. Everyone thinks I'm a whore. I stared at her belly. You still planning to erase this one too? She slapped me. It didn't hurt. You're cruel, she whispered. No, I said. I'm finally honest. She took a step back, eyes wide like I just kicked a puppy. But I didn't flinch. I didn't touch her. I just walked past her, through the hotel doors, and left her out there. Because I finally understood something. Her tears were just strategy. Tools. Like her smile. Like her moans. Like every time she ever said, I love you, while texting someone else under the covers. The next morning, the front desk handed me a manila envelope. It was from her. Inside were ultrasound photos. And a note. You don't have to forgive me. But please, don't let our child grow up thinking you didn't care. I nearly choked. Our child? Was she serious? I called Nolan. Told him everything. He sighed like he had aged 10 years in a month. You need to demand a paternity test, he said, before you fall for any more of her games. She refused at first. Said it was insulting. That I should know in my heart. I laughed in her face. Your heart changes hands more than your panties. She stormed out, of course. Left a dramatic voicemail later about how I was heartless and how she never felt so ashamed. Right. Like she hadn't been screwing around behind my back for 6 months and using her stomach like an emotional leash. Still, I filed the paperwork. And while we waited, she started telling people I abandoned her. That I was abusive. That I pressured her into things. Her sister sent me a text. I'm not taking sides, but maybe if you just talked. I blocked her. And every other mutual friend who suddenly had opinions about a situation they knew nothing about. Meanwhile, I kept working. Kept training. Kept showing up for myself, day by damn day. But the truth? I was exhausted. Anger takes fuel. So does healing. And being wrapped in this endless circus of guilt, games, manipulation, it was draining me. Some nights, I'd wake up in cold sweat, still hearing her voice in my head, whispering to him, telling him they'd figure it out. The test results came back 10 days later. Not mine. I stared at the page in silence for 15 minutes. Not mine. I should have felt relief. Should have punched the air. Should have laughed like a man reborn. Instead, I sat on the edge of the bed and just felt still. Because it wasn't just a child that died that day. It was the last piece of the lie I had been clinging to. There was no our. There was no us. There was just me. And the ruins of who I used to be. She didn't take the results well. In fact, when I sent her the copy of the paternity report, highlighted in yellow, just to make sure she didn't miss it, she lost it. I expected tears. Maybe silence. Maybe even some desperate half-apology. What I got was a 3 a.m. voicemail that started with her screaming and ended with a crash. Something broke in her apartment. A vase maybe. Or her new illusion of control. You think you're so ing righteous, Eli? She hissed in the recording. You think just because you caught me once, you know everything. You don't know what it's like being with a man who makes you feel invisible. Who doesn't even touch you anymore. Invisible? I played it twice, just to make sure I heard her right. She cheated. Lied. Slept around. Ended a pregnancy. Got pregnant again. Made a public mess of my life. And I made her feel invisible? The next day, I blocked her number. But blocking her didn't stop the fallout. She showed up at my brother's house. Told him she needed a place to think. My brother, bless his naive heart, let her in. Said she looked like she hadn't eaten in days. That's what she does, uses sympathy as a weapon. Wraps herself in tragedy like a warm blanket until someone else picks up the pieces. I drove there the minute he told me. She was sitting at his kitchen table, sipping tea like she lived there. Eli, she smiled like she hadn't just nuked our marriage from orbit. I was hoping we could talk. I stayed by the doorway. You have 3 minutes, I said. Then I call the cops. She sighed, as if I was the one being unreasonable. I've been thinking, she said slowly, about everything. And I realize now, I was scared. You were always so strong, so focused. I didn't know how to ask for help. Lying was easier? She looked down, then up, those big manipulative eyes trying to do their trick. I know I was selfish. But Eli, I don't want to raise a child alone. You're not, I said. Because I'm not the father. She flinched. Biology doesn't mean love. I couldn't believe she said that with a straight face. Then maybe Travis can love him. Or whatever guy you find next. Her eyes narrowed. You really want to be this cold? You set the temperature. And then she played the last card she had. I still love you. I should have laughed. But instead, I looked her dead in the eyes and said, no, you don't. You love control. You love knowing that someone will always pick up the pieces. That someone will be there when your fantasy burns down. She opened her mouth, but I kept going. You know what love is, Madison? It's staying when you're bored. It's fighting through the days when your partner's not perfect. It's choosing the same damn person, even when you could run. But you? You ran the second someone gave you attention. I stepped forward, just enough to make her shift in her seat. I was invisible to you the day you walked into that clinic and held his hand. The day you whispered to him. The day you erased a child that might have been mine without even breathing a word. So don't come to me now, belly full of lies, talking about love. Silence. Even my brother didn't speak. She left that night. Didn't slam the door. Didn't cry. Didn't say goodbye. Just left. And for the first time since this whole thing began, I felt peace. Not joy. Not triumph. Just silence. And it felt holy. I thought that was the end. It should have been. But Madison wasn't done twisting the knife. A week after she disappeared from my brother's place, I got served. She filed a petition for spousal support. Not just any support, long-term, high-dollar support. Claimed she sacrificed her career to build our home, that I was the primary earner, and that the stress of our failed marriage forced her into emotional instability that made her unable to work. I stared at the paperwork like it was a prank. She nuked our marriage, blew through every boundary of betrayal, and now she wanted me to fund her life while she played the victim in court? Nolan came over that night with a bottle of whiskey and a laugh so dry it could have cut glass. She's really going for it, huh? I handed him the paperwork. He scanned it and shook his head. She's weaponizing the law now. Let her, I said. I've got receipts. Videos. Her voicemail. Witnesses. Even you, Doc. I hired a lawyer the next day. One of those ruthless types who wore dark suits and had a voice like he could make grown men confess crimes they didn't commit. He read through the file, raised an eyebrow, and said, "This is going to be fun." The court date was set for 3 weeks out. And in that time, Madison began her next campaign, character assassination. She went online, wrote long-winded posts on Facebook about how she was abandoned while pregnant, how she tried everything to save the marriage, and how some men just don't want to be fathers. The comments were full of sympathy, all from women who didn't know the real story. Women who saw a sobbing pregnant woman and immediately crowned her a hero. But she made one mistake. She tagged me. She thought I'd lash out, respond publicly, get emotional. I didn't. Instead, I uploaded a video. Not the clinic one. I wasn't going to publicly humiliate myself or her. But a quiet, steady statement. One take. No edits. Just me, sitting in my living room. I said, "You all know Madison. You've read her words. But you don't know the truth. And I won't give you the full story here, because dignity still means something to me. I'll only say this. Truth doesn't need drama. And if you know me, really know me, you know I don't walk away from love without a reason. But betrayal? That's not love. That's war disguised as a hug. Thank you." I posted it, then turned off my phone. When I checked it 2 days later, the video had 1 million views. And the comments? They weren't as kind to her anymore. Turns out, people can smell fake, even under layers of perfume and crocodile tears. The night before our court appearance, she called me again. Blocked number. I picked up by instinct. You really want to do this? She asked, voice low. It's already done, I replied. I could lose everything, she whispered. So did I. Silence. Then she asked the only question that truly stunned me. Did you ever love me? I paused, then said the most honest thing I'd spoken in months. I loved who I thought you were. But that woman never existed. She didn't reply. Just hung up. And when the call ended, so did everything else. Court day came like a funeral in a thunderstorm, tense, quiet, and soaked in bitterness. She arrived in a light gray dress, minimal makeup, playing the role of the solemn, fragile mother-to-be. Her lawyer stood next to her like a human shield, smug and ready to paint me as the heartless husband who emotionally abandoned his wife in her most vulnerable moment. I didn't look at her once. Just sat next to my lawyer, hands folded, eyes forward, like I wasn't inches away from the woman who shattered me piece by piece. The judge was a woman in her 50s. Calm eyes. No time for theatrics. She asked for opening statements. Madison's attorney went first. He told a tale so well-rehearsed it could have won awards. He painted me as cold, emotionally distant, a man focused entirely on work and status while neglecting the emotional well-being of his wife. Then Madison took the stand. She cried on cue. Talked about the mental toll of our marriage. Claimed I withdrew from intimacy, that I made her feel like a stranger in her own home, that I shamed her when she begged for attention. She never mentioned Travis. Never mentioned the clinic. Not a single word about the pregnancy that wasn't mine. Just pure fiction. Wrapped in trembling hands and practiced sobs. My lawyer leaned toward me and whispered, "Relax. This isn't her win." Then it was our turn. We didn't start with arguments. We started with evidence. The video Nolan recorded at the clinic. The screenshots of her messages with Travis. The time-stamped receipts of her hotel rendezvous when she claimed to be working overtime. The paternity test. The voicemail, unedited, where she blamed me, insulted me, and finally admitted she couldn't stand feeling bored. Her hands trembled as it all played on the screen. For a moment, I thought she might break. But she didn't. She stared at the floor like none of it was real. Like the courtroom wasn't real. Like she could wake up tomorrow and rewrite the ending again. When I took the stand, I didn't cry. I didn't get angry. I told the truth. About the slow decline. The suspicion. The heartbreak of watching a woman I once adored turn into someone I didn't recognize. About finding out through my best friend, who risked his entire career to tell me what she tried to bury. I didn't paint myself as perfect. I admitted to long work nights. Stress. Distance. But I reminded the court, working hard to build a future isn't abandonment. Betrayal is. By the time the judge gave her ruling, the room was so still you could hear pins clicking and hearts deflating. Spousal support denied, she said flatly. Based on the overwhelming evidence of infidelity, dishonesty, and manipulative behavior, this court finds no grounds for financial dependency. Divorce finalized. Case closed. Madison didn't look at me once. Her lawyer gathered her things while she sat frozen, face pale, lips tight. The performance was over. The audience was gone. And there were no more scenes left to play. As I walked out of the courtroom, Nolan was waiting in the hallway. You done? He asked. Yeah, I said. Done. He handed me a small black envelope. Last thing, he said. Clinic just mailed this. Figured you should see it. Inside was a copy of the discharge form from Madison's first visit. The abortion. She'd signed it under a fake last name, his last name. Travis. Not mine. Even then, she had already decided whose life she wanted to live. Whose name to wear. Whose future to fake. I folded the paper slowly, looked out the window at the cars passing by, people moving on, living ordinary lives untouched by this kind of madness. And I let out the deepest breath I'd held in years. It was over. It's been 6 months. The silence in my apartment is no longer empty, it's peaceful. The drawers don't slam anymore. The perfume doesn't linger in the hallway, and the bed feels like mine again. I bought new sheets. Dark blue. No floral prints. No compromise. Sometimes I still get those phantom echoes, her laugh from the kitchen, her voice from the bathroom mirror, but they fade quicker now. Less haunting. More like a reminder of how far I've come. Madison's been quiet, at least publicly. I heard from a mutual friend that she moved back in with her mother. The baby's due soon. No word on who's stepping up to be the father. Travis is still missing, probably ran as far as he could once the drama hit. Can't blame him. She sent one final message a month ago. Just a picture. A black and white ultrasound. No text. No explanation. Just that image. I stared at it for a long time, and then I deleted it. Not because I didn't feel something, God knows I did, but because it wasn't mine. None of it ever was. The promises, the smiles, the future I built in my head. All of it was an illusion she let me hold on to just long enough to crush me when it served her. But I'm not bitter anymore. That's the thing they don't tell you about betrayal. It hurts. Yeah, but it also frees you. When someone shows you who they really are, you stop wasting time loving the version you made up. You stop fighting for ghosts. Now I wake up early. I go to the gym. I don't check my phone in a panic. I don't wait for lies. I've started seeing someone new. Her name's Leah. She doesn't flinch when I talk about the past. She doesn't rush me. She just listens. And that's more than I got in the last 2 years of my marriage. Sometimes I still hear Madison's voice in my head, the way she said, "We'll figure this out" at that clinic. But now, when I think about that moment, I smile. Because I did figure it out. And I left. And when she walked into that house and saw the walls stripped bare, the video playing on a loop, and my note on the table that said, "Figure this out too," that was the day I took my life back. So if you're reading this, and you're where I was, trust your gut. Look closer. And when the truth hits you like a truck, don't beg, don't bargain, don't wait. Walk away. There's peace on the other side of pain. And silence, when earned, is the loudest freedom you'll ever know. My wife sent a voicemail. That's how it started. Not a conversation. Not a tearful apology. Just a cold, robotic voicemail at 2:13 a.m. when I was halfway through a business trip in Chicago. "Hey, Jason, don't come home. It's not your place anymore. You'll be hearing from a lawyer. Oh, and try not to be dramatic. We both knew you were never enough for me." I didn't even have time to hit replay before a second notification popped up. From my brother. A photo. Just one. It was her. In his lap. Wearing the necklace I bought her for our anniversary. And smiling. I didn't scream. I didn't even blink. I just sat there in my hotel room, numb, watching as my phone exploded with messages from friends, cousins, even my own damn mother, not to support me, but to tell me to be mature about it. The next morning, I called my mom. I didn't yell. I just asked if she knew. She sighed. "Oh, honey, don't be petty. They're in love. You should be happy for them." Happy for them? My brother Tyler, my blood, slept with my wife Rachel, and the woman who raised me thought I should celebrate? My knuckles turned white around the phone. Are they going to Christmas dinner? She paused for half a second. That told me everything. "Yes," she finally said, almost defensively. "They're part of the family now. Let's not make this harder than it has to be." "Right," I whispered. Wouldn't want to ruin their holiday. And then came the final blow. My father called me 2 hours later, trying to sound like a damn life coach. "Jason, stop acting like a victim. You were never good enough for her anyway." I didn't say a word. Just listened. Then Tyler sent a message like a cherry on top of this cruel Sunday. "She chose the better man. Maybe try not being a bore next time." I wish I could say I broke something. Punched a wall. Screamed into a pillow. But I didn't. I smiled. Because in that exact moment, surrounded by betrayal, insults, and a family that decided I was disposable, I understood something vital. They all just handed me the blueprint for my revenge. For months later, I made a decision that blew the family to pieces. But before I tell you what I did, let me take you back to when I should have known something was wrong. When her kisses started feeling rehearsed. When she stopped locking her phone. When she came home late from yoga, but smelled like whiskey and cologne that wasn't mine. There were signs. 1,000 little ones. But like every fool in love, I ignored them. Until the voicemail. Until the photo. Until the moment I realized that my loyalty meant nothing to the people who should have guarded it most. Now they call me every day. Every damn day. "Please, Jason, you're all we have left." I don't pick up. But if I ever do, I know exactly what I'll say. I got back from Chicago that same evening. The house was dark, but the lights were on in the upstairs bedroom, my bedroom. Her bedroom now, I guess. I didn't walk in. I didn't bang on the door. I just stood on the driveway, staring at the silhouette of 2 people moving behind the curtains, laughing. And then it hit me, not the anger, not the sadness. Just silence. A void. I walked back to my car, drove to a hotel, and checked in without saying more than 2 words. My whole life had been gutted in a single weekend, and I still didn't know why I hadn't seen it coming sooner. Tyler. Out of all people. My own blood. The flashbacks started hitting like waves. Tyler coming over for game nights, Rachel pouring him an extra glass of wine, him staying late to help me move furniture, her laughter with him lasting just a little too long, me brushing it off like a loyal idiot. That's just how they are, right? I spent the next 2 days doing nothing, just watching the ceiling, listening to the hum of the AC and waiting for my brain to catch up to my heart. But it never did. Not really. Then I saw it. A Facebook post. Rachel and Tyler at my uncle's lake house. The one I took her to for our engagement trip. Her in the same red dress. My mother commented, "My favorite couple. So proud of you both." That's when something inside me cracked. Not broke, cracked. Quietly. Precisely. The kind of crack that doesn't bleed until it's too late. I drove over to my cousin Sean's place. We'd never been close, but he always kept his distance from the family drama. When I knocked on his door, he opened it with wide eyes like he already knew. I heard, "Man," he said. "You okay?" "No," I replied. "But I will be." We sat, drank, and that's when I found out everything. Sean, blunt as hell, said Rachel had been flirting heavy with Tyler for at least 6 months before the split. At family dinners. At barbecues. While I was inside flipping steaks, she was outside brushing her hand on his arm. Then he dropped the real bomb. Tyler said she started sending him, pictures, while you were in meetings. Even came to his place once when you were out of town. I didn't even flinch. Because deep down, I already knew. I just needed someone else to say it out loud. Sean looked nervous. "You're not gonna do anything crazy, right?" "No," I said, my voice flat. "Nothing crazy." But I was lying. I already had a plan. A quiet one. The kind of plan that makes people regret every smug smirk they ever gave you. It wasn't going to be loud or violent. It was going to be permanent. But first, I needed confirmation. I needed to hear her say it. Lie to my face. Twist the knife with that fake little smile she always used when she wanted to win an argument. So I texted her. "We need to talk. One time. In person. Just us. I deserve that much." She replied, "Fine. Coffee at noon. 1 hour. Don't be late." 1 hour? I grinned at the screen. She thought she was still in control. That's the funny thing about people who betray you. They think you're still the same fool they took advantage of. But they forget that pain changes people. And I had changed. She just didn't know it yet. She walked into the cafe like she owned the world. Oversized sunglasses, fake smile, and that irritating little sway in her hips like she thought the room should applaud her presence. Rachel. My wife, well, soon-to-be ex-wife. She slid into the seat across from me like this was some casual catch-up between old friends. "You're 5 minutes late," she said, without even looking up. I didn't answer. I just stared at her. She finally met my eyes. Rolled hers. "What? You wanted closure? I'm giving it to you." "You're welcome." I wanted to laugh. Not because she was funny, but because I couldn't believe I ever loved this woman. She was stone, polished, cold, and empty inside. "I just want to hear it from you," I said quietly. "No more games. Just say it." She sipped her coffee, took her time, then smirked. "Okay. Fine. I cheated on you with your brother. Multiple times. I liked it. I chose him. He's better." She leaned forward, her voice dropping just a notch. "You were always too soft. Too predictable. Too boring. Tyler knows how to handle a woman like me." I felt something tighten in my chest. Not heartbreak. That was long gone. This was something sharper. Like acid behind the ribs. "You humiliated me," I said. She shrugged. "You humiliated yourself. You stayed clueless while I got everything I wanted. You made it easy." I nodded slowly, letting it all sit in silence between us. "And the family?" She smirked wider. "They took my side because they like me, Jason. You always thought they respected you, but they just tolerated you. You're disposable. I'm not." That was it. I stood up, tossed a few bills on the table, untouched coffee still steaming in front of me. As I turned to leave, she said one more thing. "Oh, and don't embarrass yourself trying to get even. You can't win this." I walked out without a word. But inside I was smiling. Because I had already won. She thought this was the end of the story. She had no idea it was only the second act. The next morning, I opened the safe in my storage unit. Not many people knew I kept anything there. Not even Rachel. That's where I kept copies of everything: contracts, wills, title deeds, power of attorney papers. Because I'm not just some boring office worker like she made me out to be. I had options. I had leverage. And most of all, I had patience. 3 weeks passed. They flaunted their love everywhere. Social media, family dinners, even posted photos in front of my old house like it was some victory parade. My mother reshared every picture. My father made comments about how real men don't sulk. My brother even sent me a one-word text. Cheers. I let it happen. I let them all believe I was broken, silent, defeated. And then I made the first move. I called my lawyer, rewrote my will, froze the accounts I had access to, sold the joint investment property I never told anyone I owned because it was in my name only, quietly transferred half of the proceeds into a trust with a name no one would recognize. Then I sent a single email to every family member who had turned their back on me. The subject line read, "Let's see how well you do without me." No body, no explanation, just one attachment, a legal document removing every single one of them from my estate. And that was just the beginning. 2 days after the email, the call started. First, it was my aunt, voicemail. "Jason, honey, we think you're overreacting. Let's talk about this as a family." Then my mother, "You don't mean this. You're just angry. We understand. But Tyler and Rachel, they're trying to build something beautiful. Why would you want to ruin that?" I didn't answer. The best part? None of them knew what I'd already done. They didn't know I had pulled out of the family business entirely, taking my share of the assets with me, legally, silently, completely. They didn't know the loan I co-signed for my father's shop had a clause that transferred liability if one party was removed, which I was, which meant the debt was now his alone. I had them on strings, every one of them, and they had no idea I'd already started cutting the cords. Tyler finally called me one night around midnight. He didn't even try to hide the alcohol in his voice. "What the hell are you doing, man?" he slurred. "You're blowing everything up." I listened for a full 20 seconds, then hung up. The next day, Rachel messaged me. "You're being pathetic. Move on. Tyler and I are getting married. You can't stop us." I stared at that message for a long time. Then I replied, "Congratulations. You deserve each other and everything that's about to come." And with that, I filed the final motion, an audit request. See, what Rachel never knew, what none of them ever knew, is that Tyler had signed off as a secondary stakeholder in a dormant investment account we opened together 5 years ago. He thought it was inactive. It wasn't. And Rachel? She had used that account for personal expenses more than once during our marriage. Trips, jewelry, one particularly expensive hotel weekend. She signed the transactions. That was all I needed. The audit flagged potential fraud, which meant the IRS was now involved, which meant their little love bubble started leaking fast. And then came Christmas, the one I wasn't invited to. They posted a photo, Tyler in a red sweater, Rachel in plaid pajamas, holding my family dog like she belonged there. My mother in the background, smiling. But something was off. No lights on the tree. No feast on the table. It looked empty. The caption read, "Silent night. We're keeping things simple this year." I knew why. Because the calls had turned to letters. Because my father's business account had been frozen pending review. Because Tyler's name had surfaced in 2 pending lawsuits. Because Rachel's social media sponsors had dropped her after allegations of unethical financial conduct. Because their dream was crumbling and they couldn't stop it. For months. That's all it took. Now they call every day. Even my mother. "Jason, please, we didn't mean to hurt you. We just didn't think." That's always the problem. They didn't think I'd fight back. That I'd smile politely while they handed my life to someone else and called it love. But I wasn't the same man anymore. I wasn't the quiet one. The soft one. They showed me who they were. I returned the favor. And I didn't need to raise my voice to do it. All I had to do was walk away with the match. It was January when Rachel finally broke. She showed up at my apartment uninvited, pounding on the door like a debt collector. I didn't answer at first. Just watched her through the peephole, makeup smeared, hair tangled, wearing one of those faux designer coats Tyler probably bought to impress someone with money he no longer had. I opened the door halfway. She pushed past me like she owned the place. Typical. "We need to talk." I didn't respond. She turned, arms crossed, pacing like she rehearsed this in her head 100 times. "You've made your point, okay? You're mad. You wanted revenge. You got it. We lost deals. Tyler got dropped from his real estate firm. Your father's shop is going under. My brand sponsorships disappeared. We get it." I leaned against the wall, arms folded. "You done?" "No, I'm not done," she snapped, her eyes flashing. "You think you're some genius? That you outplayed all of us? You're just bitter because you couldn't keep me happy. There it was. Still the same Rachel. Always blaming someone else for the destruction she caused. You think this is about keeping you happy? I asked, voice calm. You think this is some schoolyard fight for affection? She laughed. Please. I know you. You still love me. You're obsessed with me. That's why you're doing this. That made me smile. Genuinely. You know what the funny thing is? I said. This isn't even about love. I stopped loving you the moment you looked me in the eye and told me Tyler was the better man. Her face tightened, like I'd struck her with the truth. I stayed silent while you humiliated me, while you paraded around with my brother like I didn't exist. And when my own parents took your side, you know what I realized. She didn't speak, just stood there, breathing heavy. I realized that you were never the betrayal, I said. You were the lesson. Rachel stepped closer, lowering her voice. You think you're strong now? You think burning everything down makes you a man? No, I said, walking to the door and holding it open. But it made me free. She didn't move, just stood there, blinking, like she couldn't process the fact that I wasn't begging for her back. Like she still thought she had some power over me. You're making a mistake, she said quietly. No, I said, eyes locked on hers. I made the mistake when I married you. Everything since then has been correction. She walked out in silence. Didn't slam the door. Didn't look back. Just disappeared into the hallway. That night, I slept better than I had in months. No dreams. No regrets. Just peace. Pure, clean peace. And when I woke up, there were 6 missed calls from my father, 3 from my mother, and 1 from Tyler. I blocked them all. Because when a storm clears, and you're still standing, you don't go chasing the thunder. You build something stronger. Something they can never tear down again. A week passed without a word from any of them. No texts. No emails. No surprise visits. Just silence. It was perfect. Then the letter arrived. Not from them, but from a law firm I didn't recognize. Thick envelope, formal header, and Rachel's full name at the top. Inside, a demand for financial restitution. She was suing me for emotional damages, claiming my vindictive financial sabotage had ruined her reputation, her career, her ability to maintain lifestyle continuity. I laughed so hard I had to sit down. Lifestyle continuity? You mean the vacations you paid for with my business card? The spa retreats you charged to the joint account after you already moved in with my brother? Apparently, playing the victim was her final move. She underestimated me again. I called my lawyer. Not a new one, the same one who helped me set the trust, structure the asset exit, and make sure everything I'd done was legal, airtight, and fully documented. We drafted a response. Polite. Professional. Attached every piece of evidence we had. Screenshots of messages. Copies of bank transfers. Dates and locations where she used funds while in a documented affair. The audit report. Witness statements. But we didn't just respond. We filed a counterclaim. Fraud. Defamation. Breach of fiduciary duty in a marriage contract. She wanted to go to war? Fine. Let's go. 3 days later, Rachel posted a sob story video online. A shaky voice monologue about how she never meant to hurt anyone, how some people hold onto bitterness like oxygen, and how no woman deserves to be financially punished for following her heart. It bombed. The comments turned fast. One user posted receipts from her deleted Instagram captions, bragging about leveling up and trading safe for thrilling. Another dropped a collage of her old vacation photos, timestamps matching weekends I was out of town. People weren't stupid. They just needed context. And now they had it. Rachel deleted the video within hours. But screenshots are forever. Tyler? He stayed quiet. Smartest thing he ever did. But the damage was already done. His brokerage license got suspended pending an ethics review. He was cut out of a property deal we both co-invested in years ago because I still held the controlling interest. I sold the land. Cashed out. Left nothing. My mother texted me late one night. You've made your point. Please stop. We're begging you. No apology. Just please stop. I stared at the screen and deleted it because this was never about revenge anymore. It was about finally understanding who I was when everything fake burned away and who I wasn't willing to be anymore. It was early spring when the final domino fell. I got a call from my cousin Mike, one of the only relatives who stayed neutral throughout everything. He worked in a local bank and had always kept things professional, never took sides. You got a minute? He asked, voice low. Yeah, I said, bracing for it. There was a withdrawal attempt this morning. Rachel tried accessing one of your old shared accounts, the one you closed months ago. I let out a breath through my nose. Let me guess. She said I gave her permission. Exactly that. She even brought a printed authorization letter. Fake signature. Obvious. She really thought she'd get away with it? Mike hesitated. She didn't come alone. Your mom was with her. That stopped me cold. My mother. Still choosing her. Still enabling her. I didn't say anything for a long time. Jason, Mike added quietly, she looked desperate. They both did. That part didn't surprise me. The walls were closing in. Tyler had been fired. Their condo was under foreclosure, news I knew would come eventually once the audits froze their accounts. Rachel's influencer deals were gone. She had become poison, even to her own brand. And now they were turning to theft. What surprised me wasn't that they tried. It's that my mother stood next to her while it happened. As if I never existed. As if blood meant less than illusion. That night, I walked to the old family house. The one I hadn't seen in nearly a year. My father wasn't home. My mother was. She opened the door and froze, guilt crawling up her face like a slow tide. I was going to call you, she said softly. No, I said. You weren't. She moved aside. I stepped in. Everything smelled the same, old wood, cinnamon air freshener, faint hint of floor polish. It used to comfort me. Now it made my stomach turn. You stood by her. You helped her. I was trying to protect what's left of this family, she said. I stared at her. There is no family. Tears welled in her eyes, but I felt nothing. No ache. No pull. Just stillness. You think you're winning, she whispered, but one day you'll look around and realize you're all alone. I nodded. Maybe. But I'd rather be alone than surrounded by people who smile while they stab. She looked away. Ashamed. Finally, I handed her a small envelope. What's this? She asked. An agreement, I said. I'm buying back the lake house. Full transfer. I already spoke to Dad. He agreed. There's a clause. Once it's signed, you forfeit any stake. You'll never step foot on that land again. She opened it slowly, hands trembling. Her voice cracked. That place is where she took him. I know. That's why it's mine now. I turned and walked out, leaving her frozen in the hallway, silent and shaking. It was over. There was nothing left to say. Nothing left to take. And for the first time in years, the past no longer owned me. The following weeks were quiet. Not the eerie kind of quiet where you wait for something to explode again, but the kind of quiet that settles in after a long, violent storm. The kind that lets you finally breathe without flinching. I moved to a new apartment overlooking the river. Small place. Clean lines. White walls. Nothing fancy, nothing loud, just mine. No echoes of betrayal in the corners. No perfume on the pillows. No need to wonder if a laugh meant something more. One morning, I walked past a bakery near my building and bought 2 black coffees out of habit. For a second, I almost turned to hand one to someone who wasn't there. Then I sat on a bench outside and drank them both. Not because I was sad, because I had finally made peace with the emptiness. It wasn't a punishment anymore. It was freedom. Rachel and Tyler? They left the state. Word got around that he picked up some under-the-table contracting gig in Nevada. She tried relaunching her wellness brand under a new name. It flopped. No one was buying what she was selling, not anymore. My parents? They faded into background noise. Occasionally, I'd get a card in the mail on my birthday or holidays. Blank inside. Just signed, Mom and Dad. No apology. Just proof they were still breathing. I never responded. Forgiveness wasn't something I owed. It was something they'd have to chase without a map. And as for me, I started over. I opened my own firm, small but steady. Clients who respected me. Days that didn't begin with suspicion or end in silence. I met new people. Real people. One woman even laughed at my worst jokes and looked me in the eye like she saw something solid there. But I wasn't in a rush. I had rebuilt too much to gamble it on charm and curves. I had learned that love isn't about fireworks and promises whispered at midnight. It's about consistency, loyalty, quiet strength. I also learned something else. Something simple. People show you who they are when they think you're weak. Let them. And when they reveal their truth, don't beg. Don't chase. Just smile, turn away, and let them drown in the hole they dug for you. Because survival isn't the revenge. Thriving is. And I was thriving. I may have lost a wife, a brother, and 2 parents. But I found myself, and I wouldn't trade that for the world. The moment his boot tapped the back of my thigh, something in me snapped. We were at our daughter Lily's school fundraiser. It was a sunny Saturday afternoon. Parents were sipping lemonade and smiling fake smiles while kids ran around in face paint. My wife, Madison, had insisted we attend as a happy family. She wore a tight white sundress and heels too high for a field event, flipping her hair every time someone glanced our way. She'd been glued to her phone all morning, but I ignored it. That was my mistake. Then he showed up. Trent. 6'3", square-jawed, the kind of guy who looked like he practiced his smirk in the mirror. I'd never seen him before in my life. But Madison? She didn't just know him. She lit up like a teenager at prom. She called him T and laughed at everything he said, even when it wasn't funny. I clenched my jaw and kept it together for Lily. Until the nudge. A soft, deliberate jab just under my left butt cheek. A move made not to injure, but to humiliate. I turned to find Trent's eyes locked on mine, his mouth curling. "Bring me coffee," he said slowly, like he was speaking to a child. "Or I'll take your wife forever." He said it right in front of Lily, right in front of Madison. And the worst part? Madison laughed. My world blurred. Time cracked open. My military training kicked in. I didn't speak. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't give him a warning. I just turned. A pivot of the foot, a twist of the hip, one precise blow to the side of his jaw. His sunglasses flew. His legs buckled. I caught him before he hit the ground and lowered him gently onto the grass like a fallen log. The crowd gasped. Kids screamed. Madison ran toward him, not me, and shrieked his name like he was the one worth saving. They called an ambulance. I stayed still, breathing like I was back in Kandahar, dust in my throat and a rifle at my side. When the medics lifted Trent onto the stretcher, his jaw hung loose like a puppet's. He'd be sipping soup through a straw for a long time. I stood next to the cotton candy stand while they rolled him away. Madison came up to me, red-faced, mascara running, but not from concern for me. Her voice trembled, not with fear, but rage. "You're insane," she snapped. "You humiliated me." I stared at her. "He touched me, in front of my daughter. And you laughed." She scoffed, arms crossed, as if I were some errant intern who botched a coffee order. "He's a real man, Adam," she hissed. "Maybe if you had a spine outside of your combat stories, I wouldn't be looking elsewhere." Right then, I knew. This wasn't a flirtation. It wasn't just inappropriate messages or secret smiles. This was deep. This was betrayal, rotting from the inside. My wife had brought her lover to our child's school fundraiser. He threatened me. She laughed, and I'd reacted with precision. But now, the real damage began. I looked at Lily, sitting alone on the bench with her knees pulled up, confused and quiet. Everything I'd fought for, my home, my peace, my family, was being gutted by the woman I trusted most. But Madison? She was just warming up. "Don't think you've won," she whispered. "He might be drinking through a straw, but I still have your daughter. And your house. So go ahead, play the soldier. I'll be the queen." She turned on her heel and walked away. I didn't follow. I stared at her back, her ridiculous heels sinking into the grass, and I made a silent vow. This war just started, and I don't lose wars that I didn't go home that night. Not because I was afraid. No, I'd stared down rifles in war zones colder than my marriage, but because I needed silence. Not the empty, awkward silence that had filled our house for months. I needed the kind of silence where thoughts turn into plans, where pain becomes precision. I sat in my truck, parked near the overlook on Miller Ridge, staring out at the city lights. Madison's words echoed in my head. "I still have your daughter. And your house." She said it like she'd won. Like I was the idiot who got blindsided in his own home. But she forgot something. I don't react. I prepare. The next morning, I drove home around 6:30 a.m. The sun was barely up, the sky a gray smear. I unlocked the front door and walked into my house like a stranger. The coffee table was tipped. Madison's heels were by the stairs. There was a sweater on the floor that didn't belong to her. I picked it up. Men's. Expensive. Too expensive for Trent, who probably spent his money on gym memberships and tanning oil. So there was another one. I walked past the living room toward the kitchen. My dog, Rex, didn't even lift his head from his bed. He looked tired, no doubt from the yelling that had probably happened after I left. Then I heard it. Laughter. From upstairs. I froze for half a breath. A man's voice. I walked up slowly, my boots thudding on the hardwood stairs. Madison's door was half open. I pushed it wider, and there they were. Her and someone else, shirtless, under my sheets. He was some finance-looking pretty boy. Younger. Hair like he was in a shampoo commercial. Madison was giggling like a high schooler sneaking out after curfew. When she saw me, she didn't scream. She didn't even flinch. She just sighed. "Oh, you're early." That was it. That's all she had to say. Like I was the one who'd ruined her morning. The guy scrambled, covering himself with the blanket like a child. I looked at him, dead in the eyes. He wouldn't last 10 seconds in a real fight. "You brought someone else into our bed," I said, low and steady. She stretched her arms like she was sunbathing. "Technically, it's my bed now, Adam. You walked out." The level of contempt in her voice could have melted steel. She got up, bare legs, no shame, wrapped in that smug confidence only someone truly heartless could wear. "You think one punch makes you a hero?" she sneered. "He." She pointed toward the trembling finance boy. "He listens to me. He worships me. You? You treat me like background noise." "Because that's what you became," I snapped. Her face twisted. "Let me guess," she said with a laugh. "You're going to give me a whole monologue about betrayal? Loyalty? Spare me. You were married to your job, to your war buddies, to your damn guns and glory. I found real attention, real men. You just carry a uniform and a boring bedtime." It was so clean, so cold. She wasn't even angry. She was done. And in that moment, something in me died. Not love. I think that had been rotting for a while. It was trust, respect, the belief that, deep down, people change when they're loved hard enough. I looked at her, standing there like a villain in lingerie, and realized something dangerous. She didn't regret a thing, and she wouldn't stop until she took everything. So I walked out of that room, not in defeat, in silence. But before I left, I said one thing. "You wanted a war, Madison? You just picked the wrong general." I left the house with nothing but my truck keys, my phone, and a fire in my chest hotter than anything I'd felt on the battlefield. This wasn't rage. It wasn't even heartbreak anymore. This was the calm before the storm. The place my mind always went before missions, the zone where plans were born. I had two objectives now: protect Lily and destroy whatever fantasy Madison had built for herself. Step 1, lawyer. I called Marcus Green, the best divorce attorney in the city. He answered on the second ring, half awake. I told him everything. Names, dates, her threats, the affair, the man in my bed, Trent at the school. He whistled through his teeth. "You have proof?" he asked. "I've got witnesses, bruises, and soon I'll have video." "Then we start today," he said. "Don't tell her. Just let me work." Done. Step 2, Lily. I drove to my sister Hannah's place. She lived 30 minutes outside the city in a quiet cul-de-sac with her 2 boys and a husband who worked nights. Hannah had always been the one person I could trust, even when we were kids. She opened the door in a hoodie, eyes half shut, coffee in hand. One look at me, and she knew. "What happened?" "I'm pulling Lily out for the weekend. I need her away from Madison." She didn't ask questions, just nodded and let me through. Lily was on the couch watching cartoons, still in her pajamas. She looked up and smiled, but it faded fast. "Daddy, is Mommy mad at you?" I knelt beside her, brushing her hair from her face. "No, sweetheart. Mommy's just confused right now. But I promise, none of this is your fault. And I'm here, okay? I'm not going anywhere." She nodded, but her eyes looked older than a child should, like she already understood more than she ever should have had to. I stayed with her all day, played games, watched movies, ate popcorn on the floor. It felt like home, real home, not the cold, twisted thing Madison had turned our house into. That night, I made the next move. Step 3, gather evidence. I had an old friend, Noah, who owed me favors from our days overseas. He was in private security now. Surveillance, digital footprints, quiet tracking. I called him, gave him Madison's number, email, and full name. "I need everything," I told him. "Where she goes, who she talks to, and especially who she's sleeping with." "You want photos?" "Everything." "No problem," he said. "Give me 2 days." Done. Then I made my final call for the night, to Madison. She didn't answer the first time, or the second. On the third, she picked up with a breathy sigh. "What?" she spat. "I just want to talk about Lily," I said calmly. "I took her to my sister's for the weekend. She needs space from all this." "You took her without asking me," she barked. "She's our daughter, Madison, not a pawn." She laughed. "Don't act like you care. You were always more in love with your weapons than your own kid." "You're making this ugly," I said. "No, Adam. You made this ugly the second you hit Trent like some overcompensating action hero. Now you want to play the victim? Please." There was venom in her voice. No guilt. No second thoughts. Just spite. "You're going to lose everything," she said. "The house. Your reputation. Lily. All of it. You think courtside with angry military men? You're just another broken vet. She hung up. I stared at the phone, jaw tight. She thought this was a game. But she forgot the most important rule of war. The quiet ones always strike hardest at BY Monday morning. The trap was already halfway built. Noah sent me the first batch of data at 6:12 a.m., a folder filled with time-stamped photos, text message threads, and GPS logs. I scrolled through them in silence, sipping bitter coffee in Hannah's kitchen while the rest of the house slept. Turns out Madison had a whole rotation of men. There was Trent, of course, currently wired shut and drinking smoothies through a straw. But also Logan, the finance pretty boy I'd found in my bed. And two others. Chase, a married guy she met at her yoga studio, and one named Jason, her business coach, who charged her in more ways than one. Different nights. Different hotels. Some of it even in our own home. But the worst? She brought Lily to one of the meetups. Not into the room. Thank God. But to the lobby of a downtown hotel while she had a work meeting. Lily sat in the cafe with a tablet and a juice box while her mother played house upstairs. I stared at that photo the longest. My daughter in a booth, swinging her feet. Alone. Her mother upstairs, doing things no child should ever be near. I felt my knuckles crack from how tight my fists clenched. Enough. I called Marcus, forwarded everything, and we agreed. Emergency custody motion. The evidence was enough to not only prove unfit parenting, but also psychological instability, recklessness, and moral abandonment. That last term, judges loved it. Next step, the surprise. I returned home that afternoon, alone. I had legal clearance to enter. The house was still half mine. I parked out front, walked up the driveway like it was just another Monday, and unlocked the door. Madison wasn't home. I stepped inside and was hit with the perfume she always overused. Expensive, overpowering, suffocating. The kind of scent that tried too hard to feel classy. The living room was spotless. Too spotless. Like she was preparing for guests. I smiled. I went upstairs, into the master bedroom, our bedroom, and opened the closet. Most of my clothes were stuffed in a laundry bag shoved behind a shoe rack. She was erasing me. I laughed. Quietly. Bitterly. Then I took out the flash drive from my pocket and placed it gently on the dresser. Alongside it, I left an envelope, my lawyer's official notice of custody filing and divorce initiation. Neatly signed. On the back of the envelope, I wrote one sentence. Now sip your karma through a straw like your boyfriend. I left the room and headed back downstairs when the front door opened. Madison walked in, shopping bags in hand, sunglasses still on. She paused when she saw me, then rolled her eyes. What? You forget your ammo or something. I looked her in the eyes. Just wanted to drop something off. She noticed the slight edge in my tone, but ignored it, brushing past me like I was a delivery guy. You're seriously pathetic, Adam. You think leaving me some dramatic note changes anything? Trent's pressing charges. And once the custody hearing hits, I'll show them who the real monster is. You sure about that? I asked, watching her. She turned, confused. What the hell does that mean? I didn't answer. I just walked to the door, opened it, and looked back one last time. Checked the dresser. Then I closed the door behind me. The next time we'd be in the same room, she'd be standing in front of a judge, with photos, texts, and lies she couldn't take back. I wasn't just taking back my life. I was taking it all. 2 days later, the courtroom smelled like cheap perfume and polished wood. Madison strutted in wearing a cream-colored pantsuit that screamed, "I'm innocent," and heels high enough to make her look powerful, not practical. She even brought her mother, Deborah, who sat beside her with a frozen smile, whispering bitter encouragement between clenched teeth. I sat on the other side of the room, stone-faced in a dark suit, hands folded neatly. Lily wasn't with us. She was safe at Hannah's, coloring outside the lines and asking when things would be normal again. I promised her they would be soon. Judge Kimberly Dorsey entered, stern, sharp-eyed, no nonsense. The kind of woman who could smell dishonesty from across the state line. She didn't look at Madison the way most people did. She didn't smile back. That was my first win. Then it began. Marcus opened with a calm, factual statement. No drama. Just dates, documents, testimony, and exhibits. Every word clipped and professional. Your Honor, what we're presenting is not just evidence of adultery, Marcus said, sliding the flash drive across the table. It's a pattern of endangerment, psychological manipulation, and reckless parenting that has directly affected the child's well-being. Click. One by one, the screens lit up, photos from the hotel lobby, messages Madison had sent from within earshot of Lily, even one voicemail where she laughed while calling me a battle-worn babysitter. Her face cracked. For the first time, she blinked. Deborah leaned over and whispered something that clearly didn't help. Then Madison spoke. "Your Honor, this is all twisted. He's spinning everything. I've been the primary caretaker, the stable one. He's a ticking time bomb. He hit a man in public." "And why?" the judge asked, eyes narrowing. She froze. "Because he touched me," I said, voice low and steady. "Threatened to take my wife. In front of my daughter." Madison laughed. The silence was louder than any scream. Madison's voice shook. "You're lying. He overreacted. He's always angry. He's not safe." Judge Dorsey leaned forward. "Ms. Green, did you bring your daughter to a hotel while meeting a man who was not your husband?" She stammered. No, it wasn't like that." "Did you text a third man explicit messages during that same weekend?" Madison's jaw twitched. I don't remember." I didn't flinch, didn't smile, just watched her unravel. She turned to me suddenly, voice rising. "You set me up. You planted this. You manipulated everything. You're trying to paint me as some kind of monster." "I didn't have to paint anything," I said quietly. "You drew this picture yourself." Judge Dorsey straightened. "That's enough." 30 minutes later, it was over. Temporary sole custody, granted to the father. Madison, supervised visitation only, pending psychological evaluation. She screamed. Loud. Uncontrolled. Her mask shattered like glass. Deborah tried to calm her down, but Madison shoved her arm away. "I'll ruin you for this, Adam," she yelled across the room. "You think you've won? I'll drag your name through every street in this town." Judge Dorsey slammed the gavel. I stood, buttoned my jacket, and turned to her just once. "You already dragged it." I just took it back. Outside, the air was crisp, clean. I didn't smile. Not yet. There was more to do. But in that moment, brief, fragile, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Control. The war was far from over. But this battle was mine that I didn't celebrate. That's not my style. The night after the hearing, I sat on the porch at Hannah's place with a cold drink in hand, staring at the quiet street while the crickets buzzed around me. Lily was asleep upstairs, safe, finally. But my mind wasn't at rest. Not yet. Because Madison wasn't done. She was a cornered animal now. And animals bite hardest when their ego's bleeding. I knew the next move was coming before it even landed. The following morning, a manila envelope was waiting at the front door. No postage. Just dropped off in person. I opened it slowly. Inside was a printed email chain between Madison and someone at the Department of Veterans Affairs. She'd filed a complaint, claiming I had PTSD, violent episodes, uncontrolled outbursts, and a history of aggression toward her and their child. Below it, a signed affidavit. Her signature. She was trying to get my military pension flagged. She was trying to take my entire identity and smear it in courtrooms and agencies I'd bled for. That was her retaliation. I called Marcus. He was already on it. "Don't worry," he said. "We'll counterfile. We have more than enough. Let her dig deeper. Eventually, she'll hit lava." But it wasn't the legal part that got me. It was how easy it came to her. How she could write those lies, sleep soundly, and still call herself a mother. I'd seen sociopaths on the battlefield. What I married might have been worse, because she smiled in public while cutting throats in private. But if she wanted war, she picked a man trained for it. I sent Noah one more message. Find out everything about her finances. I want it all. He responded within hours. Turns out, Madison had been funding her lifestyle through more than just credit cards and my income. She was siphoning money from a joint savings account I'd forgotten we even had, one we opened before Lily was born. It had $68,000 in it 3 years ago. Now, $1,142. She'd been using it to pay for hotel suites, private trainers, cosmetic treatments, and business coaching sessions, most of which were just excuses to meet her lineup of sleazy boyfriends. I laughed, not because it was funny, because it was textbook Madison. Use, spend, destroy. But now, it was my turn to take something back. I scheduled a meeting with a forensic accountant, Hannah's neighbor, actually, who specialized in tracking marital asset abuse. He looked over the files and grinned like a man handed a golden goose. "Oh yeah," he said. This is theft. Fraud, too. If we time it right, she'll be paying you alimony. Even if she wanted the divorce. Especially if she initiated it. You have the kid. You have the evidence. And if we prove willful financial misconduct, courts eat that up. It was beautiful. Poetic. The woman who mocked me for never earning enough was about to start paying me monthly. Still, I kept my head down. Kept my mouth shut. I didn't post on social media. Didn't text her. Didn't gloat. Silence is a sniper's weapon. And I was locked in. But Madison? She cracked. 3 nights later, she showed up at Hannah's. Drunk. She banged on the door like a banshee, screaming, "Adam, come out. You coward." I opened the door slowly, calmly, with Hannah already dialing 911 behind me. Madison stood there, makeup smeared, barefoot on the pavement, waving a bottle of red wine like it was a weapon. "You think you can take everything from me?" she shrieked. "You think you're better than me just cause you put on a uniform?" I didn't answer. That made her angrier. "You're nothing without me," she screamed. A washed-up soldier playing house like a hero. Blue and red lights flashed down the street. I stepped forward. "Go home, Madison." She looked at me, suddenly quiet. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "I'll burn it all down before I let you win." I stared at her. "You already did. I'm just walking out of the ashes." The officers cuffed her gently, guiding her into the cruiser. Lily never woke up. But that was the night I realized something. Madison wasn't just dangerous, she was drowning. And now, she was pulling herself under. The morning after Madison's meltdown, the neighborhood was quiet. No neighbors came knocking. No one asked what happened. That's the thing about people. They love drama from a distance, but fear proximity to its fire. I sat at Hannah's kitchen table, flipping through custody paperwork and sipping black coffee while the headlines in my head read, "Ex-wife arrested in front of child's residence." It should have felt like victory, but it didn't. Not yet. Because even though I had the upper hand, I still had to deal with the wreckage. Emotional, financial, legal. Madison left stains you couldn't scrub off in a single court session. Later that day, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. "Is this Adam Green?" the voice asked. "Yes. This is Detective Rayner. I'm calling in regard to a report made against you by Madison Green. She claims you've been stalking, harassing, and threatening her." I closed my eyes. The hits just kept coming. She filed that before or after the wine bottle performance on my sister's lawn? There was a pause. "I can't comment on her current status. I just need to ask if you'd be willing to come in voluntarily and clarify your side." I agreed. Of course. I had nothing to hide. At the station, I sat down across from Rayner, a seasoned guy, probably in his 50s, with lines around his eyes that came from dealing with people like Madison on a regular basis. He pressed the record button. I laid it all out, without anger, without exaggeration. Just the facts. The fundraiser incident. The affairs. The digital evidence. The custody ruling. Her showing up drunk, screaming threats. I handed him a copy of the forensic audit, too. He didn't interrupt once. When I finished, he sat back and exhaled. "You're handling this a hell of a lot better than most guys would." "I've seen worse," I said. "In combat zones, at least the enemy wears the right uniform." He nodded slowly, then leaned in. "Off the record? We get calls like hers all the time. Vindictive exes trying to muddy the waters before they drown. You've got your trail clean. But just watch your step. Women like Madison? They don't fall quietly. They drag." I walked out of the station lighter than I came in. But it still didn't feel like peace. Peace would come when Lily could sleep in her own bed again without wondering who'd be yelling in the hallway. Peace would come when Madison ran out of ammo. But for now, I prepared. I sold the house. It was mine to take after the ruling, and I wanted nothing to do with its walls anymore. I didn't want Lily growing up surrounded by echoes of betrayal. So I met with a realtor, signed the listing, and by weeks in we had a buyer. Madison wasn't notified until the papers were nearly finalized. She called me in a rage. "You can't do that. It's my house too. Not anymore. You gave it up in court. You were too busy screaming threats to read the fine print. You're pathetic," she snapped. "You think getting a check makes you the winner in this?" "No," I said, calm as ice. "Being free of you does." Then I hung up. But the next surprise didn't come from her. It came from Lily. That night, as I tucked her into her makeshift bed at Hannah's, she looked up at me and whispered, "Daddy, is Mommy still mad?" I froze for half a second, then brushed her hair gently. "She's just confused, baby. Sometimes people make mistakes and don't know how to fix them. Lily looked down. I don't want her to yell anymore. I nodded slowly. Me either. That's when I realized this fight wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about breaking Madison. It was about protecting the only thing that still mattered. And I was winning, not because she was falling, but because I was finally standing tall. The final blow didn't come from a punch or a courtroom. It came in silence. It was a Tuesday morning when I got the email. No subject line, just a PDF attachment titled, Final Notice, Green versus Green. Inside were the final divorce papers. Everything was official now, signed, sealed, and filed. Madison didn't even request a hearing. She folded. There was a line at the bottom, a single sentence that made me exhale for the first time in what felt like months. The petitioner withdraws all previous complaints and claims against the respondent. Translation? Madison gave up. The custody, the fake abuse charges, the house, everything. I sat at my desk, rereading that line over and over, expecting a trick, a clause, a hidden hook. There was none. She had nothing left to throw. I'd taken every lie, every betrayal, every venom-soaked insult, and turned it into ammunition. But I never fired wildly. I waited. I aimed. I struck with precision. Now she was done. I thought I'd feel euphoria, vindication. That cold satisfaction of revenge served right. But I didn't. What I felt was heavier, and somehow cleaner. Relief. I was free. Lily and I moved into a small 2-bedroom apartment on the edge of town. Nothing fancy, but it had a balcony that caught the morning light, and a quiet that felt sacred after months of screaming and slamming doors. Her new room had sky-blue walls, glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling, and a bookshelf we built together. She started calling it our fortress, and in a way, it was. One night, she stood beside me on the balcony, brushing her teeth, looking out at the street. "Daddy," she said, "do you think Mommy's still mad?" The question hit harder than anything Madison ever threw at me. I bent down beside her and looked her in the eyes. "I don't know, sweetheart, but that's not our problem anymore." She nodded like she understood, even if only a little. Then she smiled. A real one. That night, I watched her sleep. Safe, warm, whole. It was everything I fought for. Madison tried to destroy me in every way that counts. Emotionally, financially, even legally. But in the end, all she did was reveal who she really was. And once you see the truth, you don't chase the lie anymore. I didn't need to ruin her. She did that all by herself. Looking back, I realized how blind I'd been. The red flags were always there. The disdain in her tone. The eye rolls. The way she used love like a currency. Only given when she wanted something. But I also realized something else. You don't need revenge when you have clarity. Real justice isn't a dramatic takedown. It's peace while they drown in their own chaos. And for any man reading this who's walking through that same fire, let me say this. You are not weak for being hurt. You are not broken because she lied. And you are not alone. Heal in silence. Rise in strength. And when you walk away, don't look back. Because the most powerful thing you can do to someone who tried to destroy you is survive them and build something better in the ashes. It was supposed to be the kind of evening that redefines love. 15 years. 15 years of shared dreams, fights that turned into kisses, empty apartments that turned into a home. I reserved the same rooftop where I proposed to her. Private chef. Her favorite violinist. Candlelight reflecting in crystal glasses. But she was late. An hour. Then 2. When she finally walked in, everything I thought I knew cracked like cheap porcelain. She didn't look at me. Didn't even apologize. Just sat down and tossed her purse onto the chair beside her like she owned the air around her. Her perfume was strong, too strong, like she was trying to mask something. Her lipstick was fresh. Too fresh. "Sorry, ran into someone on the way," she said, smirking like this was a casual brunch, not our anniversary dinner. Her phone buzzed 3 times in under 10 seconds. She turned it face down, but not before I caught a glimpse of the name. Chase. The same Chase who used to work with her at the marketing firm. The same Chase she swore she barely remembered. "You didn't say you were bringing your phone to dinner," I said quietly, the edge in my voice sharper than I intended. "It's not 1942, Kyle. You want me to leave it in the car like a kid sneaking into a nightclub?" Her tone was laced with poison, delivered with that sarcastic laugh she'd perfected like a weapon. I should have left right then. Should have stood up and walked out. But men like me, we stay. We wait for proof, like fools chasing shadows in a burning room. I nodded, smiled, and toasted to new chapters, pretending I wasn't already writing the ending. That night, when she fell asleep with her back to me, I went through her phone. There were no locks. That was the insult. She didn't even bother hiding it anymore. Messages from Chase. Can't wait to see you again tonight. You taste like champagne and trouble. Don't let Kyle get in your head. He's too square to understand you. And the last one. After tomorrow, you'll never have to lie again. My hand shook. I didn't feel anger, not yet. I felt the universe realign. That moment when gravity feels different. My wife, the woman I built my entire identity around, was cheating on me. And she was planning to leave me. Not even leave, replace me. The next day was our actual anniversary. I didn't say a word. I cooked her breakfast like usual. Gave her the necklace she'd been hinting at. Watched her fake a smile. She said she had a meeting in the evening and that I should rest, maybe watch the game. I kissed her forehead and told her she looked radiant. She left at 6:42 p.m. By 7 p.m., she was at the Fairmont Hotel. By 7:10, they were in room 805. By 7:20, I was watching the live feed on my laptop because I'd had a private investigator install a camera inside a custom gift box, wrapped in designer perfume and ego. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I sat there in my office, hands folded, watching the woman I'd vowed to protect rip the heart from my chest without a second thought. She moaned another man's name while wearing the bracelet I gave her. And yet, I smiled, because I wasn't going to fight for her. I was going to bury her. The morning after, she returned home like nothing had happened. Wore that same smug grin she always wore after getting her way. She kissed my cheek as I drank coffee, as if she hadn't just ripped my world apart the night before. I let her do it. Let her sit across from me at the table, flipping through Instagram like she was still someone's wife instead of someone's downfall waiting to happen. Kyle, I need your car today. The Benz is acting up, she said casually. My keys are on the counter, I replied, not even looking up. That was her tell, right there. No hesitation, no guilt, not even the decency to act suspicious. She thought I was blind. She thought I was weak. But I was already 3 steps ahead. While she drove off in my car to meet her boy toy again, I was sitting with my attorney and a forensic accountant. I had prepared for this moment better than she could ever imagine. Over the last 6 months, I'd quietly shifted business accounts, rerouted investments, and isolated joint assets. I knew something was off for a while, but I never imagined she'd be this shameless. Now I wasn't just a husband. I was a man on a mission. By noon, the papers were being drafted. By 3 p.m., her company had been notified that I was launching an audit because she used to use my seed money to build her boutique brand. The name on those documents? Mine. The accounts? Mine too. Everything she built, every influencer photo shoot, every fake smile on her press page, funded by me. And now, I was pulling every pin out of the grenade she didn't even know was ticking. At 5:30 p.m., she called me. Babe, can you believe my accounts are frozen? Chase said it's probably a glitch at the bank. Can you call our guy? Sure, I said. I'll handle it. She had no clue I was the glitch. That night, I grilled steak for dinner. Played the good husband again. She talked about a potential trip to Miami. I nodded, smiled, poured her favorite wine. She had no idea the noose was already around her empire's neck, and I was just tightening it, inch by inch. Then she said it. I'm thinking of taking some time for myself. Maybe do a solo trip next week. Just need space to breathe, you know. I leaned back, looked her straight in the eye, and said, You're free to breathe wherever you like. I just hope Chase has a couch. She froze for half a second. A flicker. Then came the mask again. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing. I shrugged. Enjoy your trip. She didn't know that while she'd be gone, the locks would be changed, the credit cards shredded, and every illusion she'd ever built would be exposed. She chose to walk away on our anniversary. I made sure she'd never find the way back. 2 days after that dinner, she packed a small suitcase and left with a fake smile and a breezy, I'll text you when I land. She never said where she was going, just that she needed air. That was her code for another weekend with Chase, and I wasn't about to stop her. The moment the front door clicked shut behind her, I got to work. First, the locksmith. While she was en route to whatever 5-star hideaway Chase had booked on my dime, I had the house rekeyed. Not just the front door, all of them. Garage, back entrance, the digital locks on the patio. Everything. She wouldn't get in again without a battering ram. Next, I called my guy at the credit bureau. Within 1 hour, every shared card was frozen. I let her swipe her Amex at a rooftop bar twice, then killed the card. She'd be forced to split the bill with the same guy who whispered forever into her ear while helping her destroy everything we built. Good luck with that. Then I made one more call. To her mother. I didn't say much. Just thought you should know your daughter's out of town with someone who's not her husband. Hope she mentions it at brunch. That was the nuclear button. Her mother never liked me, but she hated being lied to even more. That little phone call? It would spread like wildfire across the family group chat. By midnight, my phone was blowing up, texts from her cousins, from her sister Rachel, even from her best friend April, asking, is it true? I didn't respond. I didn't have to. Let her feel the weight of silence for once. Around 3 a.m., I saw it. An incoming call from her. Decline. She called again. Decline. Then came the texts. Kyle, what the F asterisk did you do? Why is everything frozen? Why is my mom calling me screaming? Are you serious right now? And finally, the one that made me laugh out loud in my dark, quiet kitchen. You're being immature. We can talk about this when I'm back. Immature. She destroyed a marriage and called me immature for catching her. I turned my phone off. The next morning, I had her clothes boxed and dropped off at her sister's house. Every shoe, every dress, every bit of jewelry I'd gifted her gone. I even tossed in a handwritten note. For your next performance. Break a leg. I wasn't just cutting ties. I was erasing her. By noon, my lawyer emailed her official separation papers and a copy of the prenup she had once bragged about not needing. She had laughed when she signed it. Let's see if she's laughing now. She wanted freedom. I gave it to her in chains. By the time she stepped off her return flight, everything she thought she controlled had already slipped through her perfectly manicured fingers. Her Uber wouldn't accept her card. Her business email had over 50 unread messages, all from vendors and clients panicking about financial discrepancies. And when she pulled into the driveway in someone else's car, she found her key no longer worked. She stood there, pounding on the door like a stranger. I didn't answer. Instead, I watched from my upstairs office window, sipping coffee as the woman who once thought she ruled everything realized she didn't even have access to her own castle anymore. I let her scream for 15 minutes. Then I sent her a text. You chose this. She stopped, stared at her phone, looked up at the house like she expected cameras to pop out and yell prank. But this wasn't a prank. This was precision. This was war. And she had fired the first shot when she chose a hotel bed over a home. She tried calling. I muted it. Then she sat on the front steps, like a kid who missed curfew. I walked down after 20 minutes and opened the door, just a crack. Where are my things? She demanded, eyes burning. Ask Rachel, I replied. Her jaw dropped. You went through my phone. That's illegal. You cheated on our marriage, I said. That's betrayal. I didn't cheat, she snapped. I explored my needs. I laughed. I actually laughed, and it felt good. Is that what they're calling it now? Exploring needs on hotel sheets? Her expression shifted from anger to desperation. Let's just talk inside. Talk about what? I asked. How long it's been going on? Whether you ever loved me. Whether Chase knows the money you used to impress him was mine. That last one hit her. Hard. She flinched like I'd slapped her. I want to fix this, she said softly, trying to touch my hand. I stepped back. You're not here to fix anything. You're here because everything you thought you had just collapsed. And then I gave her the final blow. I'm going public. Her eyes widened. What? Your investors? Your business partners? They'll all get a detailed report of your financial activities, including the misuse of our joint accounts. You see, sweetheart, your empire wasn't built on vision. It was built on me. She looked like she couldn't breathe. You wouldn't, she whispered. I already did. That's when she cracked. Right there on the doorstep, designer heels, flawless makeup, and a collapsing world behind her eyes. She tried begging, pleading, even blaming me for not being enough lately. But it was over. I closed the door on her tears the same way she closed her heart on our marriage. She chose to walk away. Now I was making sure there was nothing left to return to. By the next morning, my inbox was a war zone. Her legal team had already reached out, scrambling, threatening, trying to intimidate me back into silence. They cited privacy. They cited reputation. One even had the audacity to say my actions were spiteful. I forwarded everything to my attorney with a one-line message. Continue. Her lawyer didn't know the half of it. Didn't know she'd siphoned over $80,000 from our shared business to fund her independent lifestyle. Didn't know that I had audio of her bragging to Chase about how I funded her freedom. Didn't know about the prenup clause that voided any claims to our assets in the event of adultery, a clause she insisted on signing because we're different. She was right. We were. By noon, her boutique brand's Instagram was flooded with hate comments. Someone had leaked screenshots of her text with Chase. I won't say who. Suddenly, the woman who once styled herself as an empowerment figure for women was being exposed for manipulating her marriage to fund her fake image. Her team shut the page down by 3 p.m. At 5 p.m., I got a call from her former assistant. A girl named Leah, barely 24, smart, sharp, underpaid, and clearly fed up. She used her money to fly him to Paris, Leah told me. Told me to book it under branding consultation. I still have the receipts. That was all I needed. The next day, I filed a lawsuit, one aimed directly at her company's misappropriation of joint marital funds. It wasn't about the money anymore. I didn't need it. I wanted her exposed. I wanted every carefully curated lie she built to catch fire in front of her followers, her fans, and most importantly, her ego. And that's exactly what happened. Articles started appearing. Empowerment icon accused of misusing funds from ex-husband's company. Private drama, public collapse, how one influencer's marriage unraveled her empire. She went silent on social media. Chase deleted his accounts. And me? I slept for the first time in weeks. Until one night, 3 days later, she showed up again. This time in sweatpants. No makeup. No entourage. No plan. I didn't let her in. Kyle, she pleaded, you don't understand what this is doing to me. Do you remember what you did to me? She broke down again. On the same steps. Just like before. I messed up. I was stupid. I lost everything. I stared at her for a long time. No, I said, voice low and calm. You gave it away. One lie at a time. She begged me not to go through with the lawsuit. I told her it was already filed. I'd given her more chances than she deserved. Now it was justice, not revenge. She once built a brand on the illusion of strength. Now she'd have to rebuild her life from the ruins of her own betrayal. I didn't think I'd feel peace watching someone I once loved completely unravel. But I did. It wasn't satisfying like in the movies, no slow clap, no fireworks. Just silence. Heavy, cold, satisfying silence. She didn't show up again after that last night on the doorstep. Maybe someone finally told her the truth, that I wasn't bluffing. That her tears didn't mean a damn thing anymore. That the man she thought would always stay had finally chosen to let go. It's wild how fast people scatter when the mask comes off. Her business partners all backed out within days. The moment the financial misconduct allegations became public knowledge, no one wanted to be associated with her brand. Contracts were voided. Sponsors vanished. Even her photographer, the one she flew out to Italy with last year, just for the vibe, publicly distanced himself. Suddenly, no one was rooting for her healing. Everyone was just pretending they'd never seen her smile. I saw a video of her on some small influencer's podcast, trying to clear her name. It was sad, pathetic. She talked about how marriage is a prison and how women are expected to be perfect. She never mentioned the cheating, never mentioned Chase. She looked tired, worn down. Not the polished queen she pretended to be. The comment section? Brutal. This aged like spoiled milk. Weren't you the one who said, build your own empire? Guess Kyle owned the land. She's not sorry. She's just broke. I didn't comment. Didn't repost. Didn't celebrate. That wasn't the point anymore. I had already won. But here's what people don't talk about, the quiet. After all the war. After the smoke clears. You don't feel joy. You feel nothing. And then slowly, peace starts to seep in. You realize you're not checking your phone in fear. You're not reading between every line she says. You're not fighting to prove your worth to someone who treats love like a tool. I redecorated the house. Repainted the walls. Got a new couch. New dishes. Threw away the wine glasses we used to toast with. There's nothing left here that reminds me of her. She texted me once last week. Just 2 words. I'm sorry. I stared at it for a while. Then I deleted it. No response. No closure. No need. Let her sit in the silence she once forced on me. Let her talk to the ghosts of her own choices. She used to say I'd never survive without her. Turns out, I was only drowning because she was the weight around my ankles. 2 weeks passed. Then 3. No more texts. No more doorstep performances. Just that one. I'm sorry, weak, late, and empty. I figured she'd finally accepted the reality she built. That she was done playing victim in the story where she was always the villain. But of course, I gave her too much credit. On the 25th day since she walked out, I got an email from a new address. The subject line? One last talk. I opened it. It wasn't long. Kyle, I'm not asking for forgiveness. I know I don't deserve that, but I can't sleep. I can't eat. I keep thinking about everything I threw away. If you could give me 10 minutes, just 10, I won't ask again. Haley. I stared at the screen for a long time. Funny. She never had trouble sleeping when she was lying next to me while texting Chase from the bathroom. Never had trouble eating when she used my money to order $400 dinners on girls' trips that ended in hotel beds with someone else. But now that her world had crumbled and I'd walked away, now she couldn't sleep? I closed the laptop. That night, I went out for dinner with someone new. Her name's Danielle. She's calm. She listens. She doesn't talk to me like I'm a burden to be tolerated or a tool to be used. We're not anything serious yet. Just two people healing in the same room. But when she laughs, it doesn't feel like mockery. It feels like freedom. After dinner, I got home, poured myself a drink, and sat on the back porch. The air was cool. The kind of silence I used to beg for when Haley was around, not because she talked too much, but because every word felt like a performance. Then, my phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't Haley. It was her sister, Rachel. She's staying with me. She's not okay. She cries herself to sleep. I'm not saying this to make you feel bad. I'm saying it because she's broken. Just thought you should know. I read it twice. Then again. But I felt nothing. You can't break what's already been shattered. She didn't lose me because of one mistake. She lost me because she made 1,000 small choices, and each one chipped away at the man who loved her. I didn't reply to Rachel either. Some bridges don't burn. They sink. Quietly. Completely. And no one hears the splash because no one's looking anymore. It's been 3 months now. 3 months since the anniversary dinner where everything shattered. 3 months since she walked away, not just from our marriage, but from every version of reality where she wasn't the center of it all. 3 months since I finally stopped saving someone who was busy setting fire to the very life I built for us. And now? Now it's quiet. Not the tense, suffocating kind of silence that used to fill our home when she'd come back late and lie straight to my face. No. This silence is earned. It's peaceful. It's clean. She's still trying, of course. I've heard things. Through mutual acquaintances, through Rachel, through the lawyer I pay to buffer the noise, I know what she's doing. She's trying to rebuild, but no one's buying the apology tour. Her audience is gone. Her sponsors dropped her like she was radioactive. Even Chase, the man she risked it all for, left her once the heat got too real. Cowards never stay when the lights come on. Her boutique closed its final location last week. I didn't smile, but I won't lie. I poured a drink that night. People still ask me if I'd ever take her back. As if love is a restart button. As if betrayal can be deleted with an "I'm sorry" whispered under the rubble of a broken home. Here's the truth. She didn't just cheat on me. She humiliated me, undermined me, used me. She turned our marriage into a platform, a shiny pedestal from which she could pretend to be something she wasn't. She weaponized vulnerability and packaged it as ambition. And when it no longer served her, she discarded me like last season's trends. So no, I won't be taking her back. Not now. Not ever. You don't get to walk away on your anniversary, chase a fantasy, and then return expecting the same door to still be open. That door has been locked, boarded, and burned. I'm not angry anymore. That's the beautiful part. I'm not holding onto the fire. I used it. I forged something out of the ashes. Myself. My freedom. My peace. She lost everything trying to chase more. I gained everything by finally letting go. So if you're reading this, and you're sitting in the dark wondering how someone could betray you after all the love you gave them, let me tell you something. Let them go. Let them choke on their choices. Let them wake up every day haunted by the loyalty they destroyed. Let them see what it feels like to lose a man who would have gone to war for them. Because the day will come when they realize you were the empire, and they were just a tourist passing through.